my gosh. Biggin. Yeah, there we go, baby. Yes, yes. Oh gosh. Oh man, it might have been the right call. There we go.
I've never done this before.
I know. I feel kind of nervous. I don't know why.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Well, here we are, stop number 1 of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. It is over and done with here on Sam Rayburn. We got Mr. John Cox. You won yet again. You got your 5th title this week, and man, it was kind of close, but you pulled it off.
Man, I can't believe it. I mean, just the way practice went, you know, the conditions changing, you know, how I thought I had a magical spot the first 2 days and it completely going away. It was just, I don't know how we pulled it off.
Well, being the pro you are, you scrambled, you adapted every day, and we are about to put in and go see if we can break down how that worked out, see if we can catch a bass, because we've never caught one doing a day 5 before.
Right,
so
right.
We got a lot of things to check off today. Let's get rolling. So John, we're here at the 147 bridge, which I'm sure a lot of people saw a lot of this week. This wasn't exactly where things happened for you the second half of the tournament, but this is where you got things started, especially on day 1.
Yeah, I mean, this was I thought this was the winning spot when I found it. I mean, I didn't find it in practice. I was pretty much scrambling that first day because just nothing was going right. I had a very small limit, and I just came down these rocks, you know, and I was throwing crankbait because I caught a few in practice doing that. And when I got up here to that little tree, you see that little tree sticking out?
That little point right there.
That little tiny point right there, that little tree sticking out past the bank. I threw my fritz side by it, and I caught a nice one. And I was like, you know, I was like, oh man, great. You know, I upgraded like a pound. Now I'm at like 11 pounds, you know? So I was thrilled, put it in the live well. But when I was reeling that fish in, I saw all this fresh hydrilla, you know, on my line from fighting them and going, and I was like, oh wow. And so I just, the very next cast I fired straight out and caught a 5-pounder. And I was like, oh my gosh, threw it in live well. And very next cast caught another 5-pounder. So I was like, wow, this is something, you know, this is a very special spot, you know, and you know, I ended up leading the tournament the first day. And then coming back the second day, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit there all day and just wait, let these fish, you know, come to me, you know, because I think what they were doing is, you know, because we were in a warming trend, that you know, it was warming up and these fish are coming in from the main lake, and all they were doing was passing by this little point.
Sure.
And then heading to the back, back where second place was, Greg Bohannon, you know, in the back of there. So it was just, you know, it was just an awesome little area here.
So you really stumbled on it during the tournament. This wasn't, you didn't know that this little juicy line right here that you were gonna just do circles around on day 2 even really existed.
No, I mean, I had no idea. I mean, I've caught fish here in the past, and I wanted to really fish this area in practice, but the time when in practice I came over here, it was really windy, and it just didn't look right, so I just didn't even practice it. So, you know, during the tournament around 12 o'clock, I was like, you know, I'm gonna come over, I'm gonna fish this area, you know, and see what happens.
Makes sense. So now we just gotta catch like a 6-pounder, firing some crankbaits out there. Normally on these things, we're talking about like a wacky rig or a jig of some sort, but this little guy here, this Berkeley fritz side crankbait, it caught a lot of your fish the first couple days. Like it really, that big bag day 1 really kind of helped glide you through the rest of the week, and this was the reason why. Oh yeah, I caught every fish the first 2 days on that bait. I mean, every one of them. And, you know, it was just, it's amazing. I just started throwing this thing. I didn't have any last year. I really wish I would have got some because there was a lot of places where, you know, crankbait would have came into play. You know, it only runs, it's a fritz side, a Berkeley fritz side. It's a number 5. It only runs like 3 to 4 feet. It's silent, you know, so it's like perfect for like pressured fish. And, they actually, they weighted it like a lot of guys would custom Oh, sure.
weight their crankbaits before, because I mean it's a small bait. You know, it's hard to cast a bait that size. But the way they weighted it, you're able to actually throw it really far.
And it's got a square bill, so I mean, right now we're fishing over hydrilla. You said there's some sticks and rocks down there, but it seems to come through that pretty well too.
Right, it really does. And what I also learned this week and just recently, starting to crankbait stuff a lot more, is a slower reel ratio. So I was throwing a 5-4 to 1 EXD Revo. It's for extra far casting, and in that slower reel ratio, it's only 21, 22 inches per turn. So instead of like your normal 7s or whatever, reeling up 30 inches or, 8s reeling like, 30 and change or whatever, it's able to allow you to reel that crankbait down and just almost crawl it across the cover, and not dig in too deep. And I feel like it gives that bait a completely different action compared to having it on a faster reel ratio.
Well, what about size line and rod?
So during practice, I was throwing it on 12. I was catching a few fish, but I started with 5 of the crankbaits.
Right.
By the first day of the tournament, I had 2 left. So I went up to a 15-pound, 100% fluorocarbon.
Oh, okay.
And I'm throwing it on a Veritas 7.6 medium heavy winch rod. And I don't know. I mean, my boss at Berkeley was telling me, he's like, man, you really need to get that rod, you need to try it, and I didn't last year. And this year I took his advice and decided to get it. But this rod, it's got really nice tips, so it's actually, it really allows you to really wing this, it's such a small bait, it really allows you to lay it out there. And it also gives the fish a second to, take it. So when you're reeling it and they get it, it's just a little bit softer, it gives them just a little bit delayed before you set the hook on them.
You mentioned it when we did the Facebook Live the other day, but this is a lot better when you have a crankbait rod instead of cranking on a flipping stick, isn't it?
Right. When I finally, it was just amazing how, I mean, the spot was magical those 2 days, but having the right equipment for that specific technique, it was almost like how I have my chatterbait set up or my swim jig set up or my flipping set up, where my rod and reel are so dialed in to those specific techniques, but yeah, it was just man, it was an amazing week.
And that's what you were cranking.
Yeah, that's the fresh stuff right there.
That's the goods.
And that's not everywhere in the lake right now. I went all practice and never found any of that. And then that was right when when I caught that one and that came up on my line, and I was like, oh wow,
here we go.
Yeah, there's something here. This is what we were looking for.
Well, as much fun as it's been throwing a crankbait around, I think it's time to flip gears like you did the second half of your tournament and get back to some more John Cox stuff, like go bump around some trees, throw a swim jig, throw a chatterbait, maybe a frog.
Oof, yeah, let's go do that.
Let's go see if we can actually catch one.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's go.
So we are now a little ways up the lake. We're actually now by the 103 bridge. Made quite the little run up here. We obviously have some different tools now, but the point of this is that days 3 and 4, you had to come into the river and start catching some fish shallow because your crank and bite was kind of dying. So a swim jig and a chatterbait were kind of the deal.
Yeah, and pretty much what happened was, after the crankbait thing died, it started really warming up. The water started warming up, fish started moving. And then all of a sudden it got cold again, and it seemed like the clear water down lake kind of cooled off quicker. So what I thought, last minute was, okay, maybe the dirtier water held the heat from the day before.
Sure. Maybe
those fish would still be further along and be on some of the bushes, because all morning we really struggled down there in the clear water bushes. It just wasn't really happening. And then we came up here, where it was a lot warmer. It was almost 60 degrees still, and instead of that, like 57, 56.
Right.
And we caught those few good ones right here.
So let's see if we can now catch one on some of this muddy, delicious looking water we got over here.
Yeah.
Like this spot here, John, isn't, you came here on Sunday, on the final day, and you caught 3 keepers.
Right.
But, why this wood? Because you started not here necessarily, but on wood, on day 1, and it didn't really work. But then why later in the tournament was this kind of stuff? Why were you able to catch some fish up?
I mean, honestly, I the last 2 days I couldn't figure out anything. So I was just trying everything, anything that came to mind that would give me a reason to go to catch one fish. And I mean, this spot especially, I mean, I came here, you know, I'm hoping to get one good keeper. And, you know, and then just thinking with the water, you know, because this water is completely different than anywhere else I fished all week. You know, with it being muddier,
Yeah,
just
super dirty.
Right, yeah, it just felt like it would just have a much better shot of, you know, of just completely different than what I've been fishing. So just to completely change it up, because what I was doing was definitely not working.
Well, and was there any less pressure? Like, do you think this got hit by less people, you know, from the event?
Oh, I'm for sure. I mean, every time I've been up here, here, I haven't really seen that many people. It's really hard to navigate, and you hit a lot of the standing timber running up here.
Yeah,
It's really tough to figure out the trails to get up here.
A little bit ago, you told me that you didn't know how important, you know, a couple like 2.5 pounders would be on the final day, but coming up here was kind of the clutch move, really. I mean, you did call back down towards takeoff as well, but coming up here, you knew like you're making a really long run to fish not a whole lot of water. It's like
yeah,
6 bushes.
Right.
So what was your, you know, like you got a swim jig, I'm throwing the chatterbait, you know, you pulled a spinnerbait out, but what was your go-to when you came up here on the final day?
It was pretty much the black chatterbait. I mean, it's just a 1/2 ounce. It's I think it might be a tackle warehouse exclusive custom series. So that was the one. You know, I always like that. I mean, I like all Z-Man stuff, but that was the one. I like their custom one the best. And it was just, you know, just the way the day was. I was having to cover so much water. You know, really didn't know where I was going to go. Didn't know where the bites were going to come. Really wasn't figuring out a pattern. So that was the best thing I can think of. To just cover a lot of water.
Sure.
And you know, and then when I would get it around one, I felt pretty confident in being able to get a bite on it.
So as you can tell, the sun is out now. We're basically doing what John did throughout the tournament. We have given up on anything he has caught a fish off ever, and we are now just fishing our way back to the ramp. John's like, we should pull in this pocket. We might catch one. So we got some sunshine now. We got some dirty water yet, and we've also gotten into like serious team mode because I'm in the back. I need a little more room to get around. Like now we just got to catch one, and we're just gonna rip down this bank. John's throwing the chatterbait. I got a spinnerbait, and we're gonna see if we can catch us one because it looks fishy. Looks real fishy.
Kyle, you think we can get through there?
Where there's a will, there's a way, John. We got a push-pull here. Watch out for snakes.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of snakes. Oh, oh.
Getting it. Getting it.
Don't let me lose any of my rods.
This is what it's like to be in the world of John Cox.
Man, this
fun.
Oh, this looks good.
Oh, GoPro.
Get it,
no.
Rob. Get the stick. Jeez.
Sorry. Watch your head.
Oh, just move. Just push
Just
it
help
around
it out.
and stuff.
Yeah, help
Oh
it.
yeah, no, extend it down. Make it smaller. All right, can I keep going? Because I think we might run out of water.
We're definitely gonna hit a fence,
Oh yeah, we'll have to throw over the fence.
but we might be able to get close enough to maybe lob over the fence.
That'd be cool.
We did it.
Are you gonna throw the phone?
No, you palms
Or do
away,
you want
bro.
the chatter?
Palms away,
I feel like
bro.
the chatter's the better.
Chatter?
I feel like it is. I feel like it's the smarter decision.
Okay. Then go.
But I'm gonna throw the frog. Kyle throw the chatter.
So you know back there's got to be even.
It's gotta be. Something underneath it.
This is a pretty good first-hand look at how John would probably practice at most events. You saw some water back through these bushes. You're like, hey, I bet we could catch one back there. So So we crashed and smashed our way back in here and made a few casts. Didn't catch anything, but it's still cool. Let me get this rod for you, and maybe these. It's still cool to see, you know, how sometimes it might pay off, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it almost seems a lot of times it doesn't pay off, but every once in a while, every couple of years, it will, you know,
I believe it.
Pay off.
Not a lot of people are big on having sticks and snakes and all kinds of stuff fall in their boat. Break trolling motor props. How many of those do you break a year?
No, I don't know. It's not from hitting the wood or anything, I don't think.
I don't think. I do want to know why, like, you're kind of like, you were talking about feathering the chatterbait.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why that? You know, last year at Seminole, guys were like yo-yoing it kind of right in the grass, and that's not really, but I feel like dirty water and hard cover, it seems like something you don't hear a lot about.
Right.
So what made you say, hey, this is how I'm gonna catch one?
You know, usually I like doing that when the bite's really tough and they're not really reacting even when you hit the cover, because a lot of times normally, you know, you're reeling that chatter nice and easy and you're keeping it, you know, close to the bottom, and you bump something and then the bite's instantly after the bump.
Right.
You know, especially with the water cold and fish aren't actually spawning on the sticks yet, but they're kind of hanging out. They're actually not even, some of them aren't even really sitting on the sticks or the wood. They're actually sitting a few feet off of it. And
when I get home.
And so I think that's that when you're kind of feathering it through there, you're catching some of those fish that are not right on the wood yet, but are just getting ready to get up on it.
For sure gonna get snagged on that cast probably.
Oh my gosh, right at the boat.
Is it big?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it is a little.
Oh my gosh, look how fat this thing is. Oh my God.
I would ask if you wanted help, but you also have won 5 tournaments, so I'm just gonna assume you know how to land a bass.
Oh my gosh, look how fat this thing is. Oh my gosh, look at it.
This is
full of eggs.
it only took all day.
Oh my gosh.
We're on like spot 3 or 4 of places that you hadn't really fished in the tournament, but you thought maybe you could catch one. And that is a pretty dang good way to end it.
Jeez, I haven't caught one this big in 2 days. Look at the size of that thing.
Put that down. John, on that note, we are going to leave Texas. I'm gonna let you get back to Florida. Congrats again, dude. It's an awesome week. Like I said before, I think this is one of your best wins to date. And it still proves that, you know, you're pretty good.
Thanks, man.
We'll see you at Harris. Safe travels. Let's get her back in the water. Let's go get some food.
All right, man, let's go.